you have been doing your book tour, and I've been watching, of course, a bunch of interviews, and you said, why write a memoir if you're not going to keep it real? So I'm excited to talk to you.
I did try to keep it real.
You have been.
Valerie Jarrett is keeping it real with the American people. It's not an easy task for a political power player who knows the difference between being in the game and watching from the sidelines.
Are you going to try to be a shadow government or just a very interested spectator off to the side?
Well, it's a good question. There is one president at a time.
Her president, Barack Obama. And in 2008, Jarrett officially became a senior advisor to the 44th president, making her voice one of the most influential in our country for 8 years.
On the left of your screen there, that's Valerie Jarrett.
She became a household name seemingly overnight, but that was nowhere near the beginning of her journey.
And one day my father's like, what happened to my little shrinking blue violet? That was that shy little girl who couldn't open her mouth. And I found it really trying to be purposeful and helpful to others.
She was a shy young girl, born in Iran to a doctor father and lawyer mother. They taught her the value of hard work that led her to the White House to craft policies like the Affordable Care Act.
The bill is passed.
The push to repeal the ACA proves to Jarrett that her work is never over.
We're winning the lawsuit to terminate Obamacare in Texas.
Are you worried about the future of the Affordable Care Act and if they'll be able to repeal and replace it?
Well, of course I'm worried about the future because I've met so many families who are benefiting from it. And what we discovered as we did the policy work is you can't provide people who have pre-existing conditions with health insurance unless you have a mandate that requires everybody to have it, because that enlarges the pool. And so it's a complicated piece of business and not so simple to replace.
She and the president disagree on that. They would also probably disagree on which presidency was smoother sailing. Jarrett says her time in Washington was far simpler than his, that she and President Obama only weathered storms outside of Marine One, not in the White House.
So for the most part, and you made this comment and it was kind of jokingly, but the Obama administration really was able to avoid personal scandals. I mean,
very seriously about that, yes.
If you think about it, it was really just, his smoking habits were criticized, and you had tan suit.
A tan suit, or maybe a foot on a desk. That's about as outlandish as we were, quite by design. I mean, President Obama, it was so important to him that we color well within the lines.
But Jarrett says she wishes they had more time to do it. She regrets not being able to pass comprehensive immigration, gun, and criminal justice reform.
And to turn it a little bit, the other thing I wish early on is that we were so busy getting the policies right that we didn't get outside of Washington and travel and tell our story to the American people. And the Affordable Care Act, in a way, fell victim to Republicans who were talking about death panels and all kinds of other stuff.
What is effectively a death panel? Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Nobody knew what that meant, but you didn't want a death panel, right?
Is that advice that you would give to the Trump administration?
To tell the story? Well, I'd encourage them to get the policy right. Tell fewer stories, do more work.
Someone else who's looking at some more work, her friend and former Vice President Joe Biden.
That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Can he handle it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, he can handle it. Absolutely.
But she admits she couldn't handle everything life threw at her. Her memoir is brutally honest about the changes in her life that have taught her the most, changes she hopes people can learn from.
And I said, let me tell you something. I've never been lonelier than in an unhappy marriage. Do not think marriage will complete you and make you happy. You better be happy already. And then it's nice to have, it's icing on the cake, but if you're looking to that person to make you happy as I was, then you will be miserable. And I say that in the hopes that by sharing how unhappy I was, they'll not rush into a marriage that doesn't make any sense, like mine did not make any sense.
You're telling them bake the cake before you try and put icing on anything.
Exactly. Bake the cake, let it rise, cool it off, and then put a little icing on the cake.
Ironically, she hasn't thought much about cooling off just yet, although expecting her first grandchild from daughter Laura helps.
What do you hope your, we'll say grandkids' kids, what do you hope that they read in the history books about you?
I would want my grandchildren to know that I worked hard to make our country fairer, more equal, more just, and that they would, and that I really cared about being a really good mother and friend and family member, and that you should be able to figure out how to do both.